Why do some celebrities struggle so much with staying single? And why do we care so much? We have so much to talk about today. I'm so excited to get into this video. I love anything obviously like social psychology related, and this is just like one of those topics that I think is like really interesting. I think three really good examples of this in pop culture would be Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, and Leonardo DiCaprio. Taylor, especially in the past, nowadays I think her image is sort of changed, but back in the day, I remember she would always get into scandals regarding who the person she was dating. Every like media outlet would call her like a man eater, and people basically coming after her for dating a lot of men. We're seeing the same thing happen to Ariana Grande. She's receiving a lot of backlash at the moment. To be fair, with her case, it's a little bit different because she's also accused of being a homewrecker, which I'm not going to get into that, but yeah. I think even before the whole SpongeBob scandal, people were really quick to judge and point out the fact that the girlie cannot stay single. With Leonardo DiCaprio again, relationship after relationship after relationship. To be fair with him, there's a whole age aspect to it, which I'm not going to get into that respectfully. But what if I told you that we might have been wrong about this all along? Let me break it down to you. What is serial dating? When I think of serial dating, personally, I imagine someone who, like the examples I mentioned before, someone who cannot stay single, someone who always is craving a relationship, who is, right after a breakup, get into a new one. However, there are many different like definitions for serial dating online. And to be fair, it's not really a scientific term or anything. There's no like official, I feel like, definition for it that I could find at least. I think the more appropriate term of what I'm talking about would actually be serial monogamy. So, according to this article that I found online, serial monogamists can have short lived relationships or long term relationships, but basically, the determining factor of whether or not you can be called a serial monogamist is the fact that you're basically never single. So, potential signs that you might be a serial monogamist include difficulty staying single, feeling bored or restless in your relationship, having like a new person lined up after a breakup, relationships quickly becoming really serious and intense, looking for a new relationship right before or after a breakup, and difficulties with self esteem and loneliness when you're single. I think the first natural reaction when you think of like a serial dater or serial monogamist, whatever you want to call it, is that you immediately assume that like, oh, they must like not be able to be single because they're scared of being alone. And I tried my best to find research linking serial monogamy or even like rebounds to fear of being alone. And I'm not gonna lie, I could not find a single study on it. To be fair, I feel like serial dating, serial monogamy is like not really well researched. So I ended up looking up, like trying to look up like things related to it, like rebounds and stuff. For this video, unfortunately, I had to rely on a lot of articles on like psychological blogs and stuff. I try to make sure that at least it was written by like experts in the field, so it had like some credibility to it. But what if I told you it was the complete opposite? What if I told you that it's not actually the fear of being alone, but it's rather the fear of commitment that make us more likely to become serial daters? Some serial monogamists might struggle with commitment. As soon as they feel that the relationship is becoming too serious, requiring way too much commitment, they get the fuck out of there and get on to the next one to avoid being alone. A different term for this that I read online as well is the term called cushioning. So, cushioning is basically when after a breakup, you have someone else like lined up or like as backup in order to minimize the impact, like the negative impact of a breakup. Breaking up with someone is really fucking hard. You're basically grieving the loss of this person who was a huge part of your life. And so if someone has a pattern of cushioning, what's interesting is that on the surface it looks like, this fear of them being alone. They don't want to be alone. But it might actually really reflect like a deeper unconscious fear of commitment where they use this like cushioning strategy to sabotage their relationship to avoid dealing with, problems in their relationship. So for instance, like after, the honeymoon phase, when you're realizing, wait, this person isn't like perfect, they have like a lot of issues and you're getting into conflicts and maybe you're noticing problems that you need to bring up. And instead of having this like intimate conversation with this person and opening up about your feelings, you just get onto the next person instead. So most people usually, will take some time after a breakup to heal and process, the loss of this person. But some of us choose not to. However, there have been studies to suggest that your attachment style might reflect how likely you are to end up in a rebound situation. So to understand this study, you have to understand attachment theory. So I'm going to quickly go through it. If you already know attachment theory, you could probably skip ahead, but I'm just going to do a really brief breakdown of it. So there are four major types of attachment styles. I'm just going to explain three of them, which are the non-pathological ones. There's secure, there's insecure anxious, and there's insecure avoidant. So secure is what we all, hopefully, I'm hoping, we all strive for, right? It's a relationship where we feel like we feel confident in ourselves, we feel confident in the relationship, we feel like we can be our own person, we can go out, do what we want, but we can also retreat back into the relationship and seek comfort. We can be open and vulnerable. Yeah, like a healthy relationship where you can seek support when you need, but you can also, be your own person and deal with your own shit. Then you basically have avoidant attachment style where you feel uncomfortable with emotional intimacy, with vulnerability. If you get into an argument and your first instinct is to like run away, to close yourself off from the other person type vibe. Very independent, very self-sufficient person. Then you have the anxious attachment style, which is basically when you feel, it's kind of like the opposite of avoidant, I would say. You seek this closeness to your partner, but to the point where it becomes almost like unhealthy. You rely on your partner for a lot of your needs. You might struggle being independent, and you might rely on your partner a lot. You might feel really insecure in the relationship, and you might feel really scared when you perceive the other person as distancing themselves away from you. I'm not going to really get into like why we develop the attachment styles that we do and all that stuff. We could save that for another video, or you could look into it in your own time. I definitely would recommend you to, because it's super interesting, and it definitely helped me a lot in my relationship and just in general for me to understand myself. But I digress. So now we know about attachment theory. Now we can get into the study that I was talking about. So recent studies found that people with avoidant attachment style, so people who are scared of emotional closeness and intimacy, are more likely to engage in a rebound relationship after a breakup. And this can kind of be seen as their way of trying to control those negative feelings that come after a breakup. However, I will mention that just because you're a serial dater or find yourself in a rebound situation, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're scared of commitment. Some of us genuinely just feel happy and content in relationships and don't really struggle with, commitment or faithfulness. However, why might it be good for us to stay single after a breakup? I'm sure we all have that one fucking friend that makes their whole life surround their relationship or whoever they're seeing at the moment. And not only is this fucking annoying to listen to and deal with, but it actually does have some real problems and repercussions. These people might be more likely to base their identity around their relationship and whoever they're dating. If you don't know who you are without your partner, or if you end up breaking up with someone and don't take the time to reflect on what went wrong and what you can learn from it, what might happen is that you end up in this cycle where you just keep getting with the same people who have the same problems. You just get into one bad relationship after the other. Being single will give you this freedom to figure out what it is you want out of your life without the influence and opinion of another person. And unfortunately, I think a lot of us don't appreciate this freedom until it's gone. And we end up getting into a relationship where we sacrifice parts of who we are or what we want for someone else. And despite all of these benefits to being single, I fear we do live in a society where being in a relationship is put on a pedestal, and we're expected to, prioritize our romantic connections the most out of all of our other ones. And I definitely think that being happy being alone is definitely something that we should all strive for. And I know that I just went through all of the reasons why being single is great, and why, taking time to heal and process after a breakup is a good thing. But is serial dating actually that bad? So I did my research, and what I found was actually quite interesting. So there were 2 studies done where they examined people who experienced a breakup and assessed 3 things. So they assessed their well-being, their feelings about their ex, and whether or not they were seeing someone new. And the findings actually indicated that the people who were in new relationships were more confident in their desirability and had gotten over their ex a lot better. And among these participants who were in new relationships, how fast they entered a new relationship was associated with greater psychological and relational health. So, contrary to popular belief, rebound relationships might actually be a good thing, or at least to some people. So why do we care so much about these celebrities' dating lives? Simply put, it is entertaining. We love to gossip about other people, and we've all done it at one point or another. However, celebrity relationships can also reflect broader like societal norms and standards. So people might actually be interested in understanding the relationship dynamics of celebrities in order to understand the social patterns and social dynamics of relationships. So obviously in the case of serial dating, what we've seen with like, Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, Leonardo DiCaprio is serial dating is definitely shunned in society. It's seen as a sign that you're uncomfortable with being alone, that you're insecure or scared of commitment. But as we saw from the research, it actually might not be that bad. Obviously, the study that I mentioned didn't look at serial dating specifically, but at least getting quickly into a new relationship after a breakup doesn't seem like it's that bad of a thing, at least psychologically. While I think that the study that I mentioned we should definitely take with a grain of salt, I don't think we should judge and shame others for, moving on too fast. And I think it's really important to understand the reasons behind someone getting into a new relationship. Is it because we're scared of commitment? Is it because we're scared of being alone? Or is it simply because we want to share our lives with someone else? I think if your reason is due to fear or insecurity, it's really important that you face those issues head on before you enter a new relationship, because otherwise you're just going to bring all this baggage to the next person, and you don't deserve that, and I think that person also doesn't deserve that. Anyways, that was it for this video about serial dating. Let me know what you think. Do you think serial dating is bad? Do you think it's a good thing? Do you have mixed feelings about it? Let me know, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.